Tonight, the ground invasion moves closer as Israel and Hamas trade rocket fire and air attacks over the border, all in the wake of the terror attacks that left 1,300 Israelis dead, plus spreading hate.
It's amazing how much devastation hatred can create.
Antisemitism in the U.S. and the speaker race at a snail's pace. The GOP search to replace their ousted leader. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. Unwavering U.S. support as Israel's war with Hamas rages on. Good evening in Washington. I'm Jenna Browder. Rocket fire is raining down as the conflict enters its 11th day. As air attacks continue, an Israeli ground invasion in Gaza could come at any time. The State Department is evacuating Americans on charter flights and cruise ships. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says the U.S. is also working to open a humanitarian corridor to help civilians looking to flee Gaza.
Rafah will be open. We're putting in place with the United Nations, with Egypt, with Israel, with others, the mechanism by which to get the assistance in and to get it to the people who need it.
Earlier today, UN fuel trucks were reportedly traveling into Gaza from Egypt, but civilians are still stuck, unable to escape. CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell says the Egyptian government may be trying to avoid having to help lead in Gaza.
They don't want to govern Gaza, and that's one of the ways why Israel has been reluctant to go into Gaza, because they don't want to govern it either. And right now it's been, a tyrannical regime of Hamas since 2007. So Egypt doesn't want this problem. Israel doesn't want this problem.
Meanwhile, Iran has a new warning for Israel. Instigate a ground invasion in Gaza and expect attacks from Hezbollah in the north. Israeli officials, though, seem unfazed by the threat.
We will strike Hamas from the top, through its institutions, all the way down to the individuals that conducted the butchery of our babies.
More than 1,400 people have been killed in the Hamas terror attacks on Israel, including at least 30 Americans. At least 2,700 Palestinians have died in retaliatory attacks. Israel says another 199 people are still being held hostage by Hamas inside Gaza. And for more, let's bring in Bill Roggio, Senior Fellow and Editor of the Long War Journal at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Bill, welcome. Good to see you. So what could this massive ground invasion in Gaza actually look like?
Yes, this is going to be very difficult for the Israelis. I remind people to think of U.S. operations in Iraq when cities had to be cleared, like Fallujah, like Ramadi, back in 2005, 6, 7. You're fighting in a dense urban environment against an enemy that has accumulated weapons over the years. They launched this attack knowing that the Israelis would respond and that the Israelis very likely would enter Gaza. They've been accumulating weapons, very dangerous weapons, including what's known as explosively formed penetrators. And these weapons are very effective against armor. Iranians very likely are involved in training and arming Hamas to build these weapons. They were used to great effect by Iraqi Shia groups that were backed by Iran. Hundreds of Americans were killed. The Israelis have no choice but to enter Gaza and to clear it of Hamas if its stated goal is the elimination of Hamas and its military and its government. There's no way to do it other than doing it through the ground.
Bill, how long do you foresee this taking place? Weeks, months?
This is without a doubt months. This is an operation that they're going to have to clear. It's a densely populated, multiple cities. 2.2 million people, although a number of them are fleeing. It is important. It would be good if the civilians could get out of Gaza and get into Egypt to sidestep this operation. But given again, that urban terrain, you have to clear it block by block. You're clearing rubble. You're clearing destroyed buildings. That's what we're going to see. It's not going to be a pretty picture on the television. The Israelis are going to be under a lot of pressure.
So the IDF, they've urged some 1.1 million Palestinians to evacuate the northern part of the Gaza Strip. At the same time, Hamas wants these people to stay. Can you talk about how Hamas is using these people in this battle?
Yeah, this is against all international norms and the laws of war. Hamas wants the civilians to stay because they want to use them as human shields. They want to drive up that body count. The Israelis' goal is to go after Hamas. It's not to kill Palestinian civilians, but Hamas is going to force a segment of them to stay, and in order to drive up that body count, to make those images on television look really bad. There's going to be a small segment of people that just aren't going to leave. It's like that in every conflict. We've seen this most recently in Ukraine, where civilians just refuse to evacuate, but the large majority want out, and Hamas is going to stop a good number of them.
And Bill, in just the few seconds that we have left, how do the hostages in Hamas custody complicate an operation like this?
Extremely complicated. They're very likely being held in tunnels, which the Israelis also have to be cleared. That is, you can't do this from the air. You have to go boots on the ground and, again, clear those buildings, clear those tunnels, and try to get them out alive. It's going to be very difficult.
All right, Bill Roggio with FDD. We always appreciate your insights. Thank you so much, Bill.
Thank you very much, Tara.
And here at home, a new warning from the head of the FBI, Director Chris Wray, telling reporters Sunday that amid Israel's war, there are real threats to America, saying, quote, do not discount the possibility that Hamas or other foreign terrorist organizations could exploit the conflict to call on their supporters to conduct attacks on our own soil. Concern is especially high among America's Jewish community. As national security correspondent Caitlin Burke reports, in recent days, state and local authorities have been ramping up security at synagogues, Jewish schools, and community centers.
Long before Hamas attacked Israel, anti-Semitism in America has been a major concern. Now, spurred on by this current Middle East conflict, a wave of anti-Israel protests is spreading hate against the Jewish community. This type of rhetoric can lead to violence, and sadly, Devorah Halberstam, an activist against anti-Semitism, knows that all too well. Her oldest son, Ari, murdered for simply being Jewish back in 1994.
My son's case in particular was a revenge attack for what was taking place in the Middle East. So certainly on a smaller scale, it was similar to that. And my son, who was completely innocent, it was an attack on an entire van load of identifiable Jewish students. And his van was shot up with 40 rounds of ammunition.
Halberstam calls the hate that fuels anti-Semitism a threat to all of civilization, not just the Jewish community.
It's amazing how much devastation hatred could create. But people need to look at this and say, that could be my son and my daughter, and my sister or my brother or my friend or my neighbor.
While state and local leaders see no current credible threats against their Jewish communities, they aren't taking any chances. In New York City, home to the world's largest Jewish population outside of Israel, the NYPD is under orders to make sure they have all the resources they need to feel protected. Governor Kathy Hochul reiterating anti-Semitism will not be tolerated.
And I'll continue to fight anti-Semitism every place it rears its ugly head. We will defeat evil right here in New York. Let's win this, everyone. Let's stick together. New York stands with Israel.
Virginia Attorney General Jason Miyares tells CBN News state police have ramped up patrols of synagogues, Jewish day schools, and Jewish community centers.
Anti-Semitism is the world's oldest form of bigotry. It seems to always come out of the shadows when there's conflict, and right now we want to make sure that our Jewish citizens feel protected and safe and secure.
Meanwhile, in Washington state, members of the Jewish community say their leaders have failed to follow through on promises of increased security. Seattle talk show host Jason Rantz, author of the book What's Killing America, says liberal policies in his state have created an environment that feeds anti-Semitism. He blames the lack of condemnation of the Hamas attacks for causing greater anxiety among the Jewish community rather than providing a sense of security.
We're noticing who's showing up to these pro-Hamas rallies, and I think people are realizing these are our neighbors, right? These are our doctors, our lawyers, our kids' teachers, And that is a terrifying reality, that you have people celebrating the deaths of innocent Jews, and they seem to feel like it's okay to hold that position.
According to the Anti-Defamation League, a rise in anti-Semitic activity usually follows periods of increased hostilities between Israel and terrorist groups. The ADL is urging the Jewish community worldwide to remain vigilant. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Washington.
All right, thank you, Caitlin. Robert Nicholson is the founder and president of the Philos Project, and he joins us now. Robert, welcome. So even before this terrorist attack on Israel, anti-Semitism was growing pretty rapidly around the world. What do you make of what we're seeing right now?
I think we're seeing the next phase in a disease that has been metastasizing inside our society for decades. As you said, this is something that we've seen for years. I'm sitting in New York City. Anti-Semitic attacks here have been on the way up even before COVID. And what we're seeing now in these streets and streets of cities around America is really, I think, the genie kind of coming out of the bottle as people feeling, for some reason, permission to stand up in favor of these atrocities that Hamas committed, start to spread and start to make converts. And I think it's the duty of every Christian, every person of faith, every American to stand up and do the opposite.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about how Christians can help be a part of the solution here. But first, you retweeted a video from the president of Harvard. She said Harvard embraces a commitment to free expression when talking about some of these, pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian rallies and different things, statements the student groups have released. That all in light of what we're seeing on campuses at Harvard, but also all over the country on college campuses. Just your comment on that, Robert.
Well, when I retweeted that post, that video from the Harvard University president, I wrote something to the effect of the West has lost the moral tools needed to deal with evil. And I believe that firmly. This is a conflict about Israel, about the people of Israel. The aggressors we know are Hamas and Iran, but there's something much deeper happening here. There's a lot more at stake than we may realize in the moment. The fact that a Harvard University president and other university presidents and other leaders don't know how to say that there's a difference between free speech and marching in defense of murdered babies just tells you all the things you need to know about America in 2023. We don't have the vocabulary. We don't even know what to draw from in order to say that these things are wrong, which is another way of saying that Judeo-Christian tradition that we've all taken for granted for so long, it's not only eroding, it may be falling apart altogether.
Yeah. Just a few seconds left here, but I do want to ask you, Robert, about how Christians can help the Jewish people and fight against anti-Semitism.
Contact Jewish friends. Let them know that you're their friend and you stand with them. You may not think that they have anything to do with what's going on, but they are in some way processing all of this. And that little note, that little text message can mean a lot. I would say the other thing is you can give. We're actually leading a campaign to give to one of the communities affected, Kfar Aza. And if you go to our website for passagesisrael.org, you'll see a pop-up. We are bringing aid to the families whose family members have died, who are being held hostage. And this is a community that we know well. We brought over 10,000 people to visit that community, see what it's like to live next to Hamas, and now we want to help them.
Well, it's amazing work that you all do, and we're grateful for it. Robert Nicholson, thank you so much for coming on this evening. God bless.
Thank you.
Coming up, could the chaos soon be coming to an end on Capitol Hill? The latest on the GOP search for a House Speaker, and more just 2 minutes away. Welcome back. 31 days. That's how much time is left before the U.S. government runs out of money. Lawmakers have to come up with a budget to avoid a government shutdown. And crucial to those negotiations is a House Speaker, which Congress currently does not have. Another number for you, 217. That's how many votes Republican nominee Jim Jordan needs to become Speaker. The question tonight is, can he get there? For more on this, we're joined by Abigail Robertson. Abigail, where do things stand tonight?
Well, Jenna, as of tonight, many Republicans feel confident Jordan might just secure the needed support to win the House Speaker vote tomorrow at noon. In the last 24 hours, he's been able to win the support of a number of outspoken members of his conference who were not planning on voting for him on the House floor, bringing some hope that chaos could soon end for the sake of the country.
It's not about pressuring anybody, it's just about we got to have a speaker. You can't open the House and do the work of the American people and help our dearest and closest friend Israel if you don't have a speaker. So we get the speaker, we get the House open, and we get to work on the resolution and supplemental for Israel, and we get back to work for the American people.
The vote will take place tomorrow at noon, whether Jordan has enough support to end the speaker search or not. And it could go a couple of ways. Jordan could outright win and become speaker, or he could fall far short of the 217 votes he needs and choose to end his bid. Or if he's within about 20 votes of winning, it could set the stage for a round-robin style election like we saw back in January with Kevin McCarthy, which took rounds of voting before he finally won. Now, Jordan sent a Dear Colleague letter around today urging Republicans to unify and support his nomination.
Abigail, how does Kevin McCarthy feel about Jim Jordan's nomination?
Well, McCarthy is giving Jordan his full support. He's urging Republicans to come together, get the House back on track, and start addressing the very serious issues facing our world today. Take a look.
I feel very good about where Jim Jordan is at. He has been an integral part of our team when we took the majority, helping us get the majority. The real challenge here is, and I know a lot of people out there are afraid that, will Republicans break off and go work with Democrats? The only reason anybody's even talking about that is because 8 Republican members worked with every single Democrat to remove me from Speaker and put us into this tailspin, and all based upon keeping government open.
McCarthy noted in that interview that had he not just recently worked with House Democrats to keep the government open, a move ultimately leading to his ouster, our troops could be responding to the urgent situation in the Middle East right now, and they might be doing so unpaid. McCarthy says there is too much going on in the world today for the House to continue without a leader and within disarray. Jenna?
All right, Abigail Robertson, thank you very much. Well, the road to recovery in Hawaii. Up next, how Operation Blessing is bringing help and hope to fire victims in Maui. A clearer picture of the terror caused by the Maui wildfire is coming into focus. High winds and quick-moving flames caught many off guard, making it one of the deadliest fires in U.S. history. Now, the Associated Press has released audio from 911 calls. A warning, this is difficult to hear.
We just can't get out. There's no way out.
The apartments right across the street is on fire at the old folks' home. Oh my God, is there any way I can help?
Evacuate. Collect everything you need. Assist everybody. Evacuate.
My dad was trying to fight the fire.
Okay, again, you were not able to tell them just leave it, walk away, and be able to, you know what I mean? I know their instinct is to put it out, but at this point, it's not a good idea.
We tried to tell them he had not left yet, and then the phone got disconnected. The last words he said is, "I love you, we're not going to make it."
Oh, it's just tragic. Well, while the deadly Maui wildfires may have faded from daily headlines, the road to recovery is really the focus still of survivors. Safe housing is among the greatest needs. CBN's Operation Blessing is helping to meet that need. Ephraim Graham caught up with OB to bring us that story.
You could call this a caravan of hope. Operation Blessing flatbeds arriving at this Long Beach shipping center ahead of schedule, delivering an answer to many prayers.
I think this is probably the furthest undertaking of modular homes ever happened. I'm not aware of homes traveling 12 time zones, quite literally.
Jan Pronin runs the company that built the pre-wired pop-up homes in Hungary. They arrived in New Jersey days ago, where Operation Blessing's trucks picked them up for this leg of the journey.
What's behind us is 90 more units that are traveling to Maui, and we have generous support of Operation Blessing, our partners from Vanguard Logistics.
Each truck can carry as many as 10 units. That is essentially 10 homes.
And once they arrive at their final destination, each can be assembled in as little as 5 to 10 minutes and stand ready to be used.
And here's what the homes will look like once they arrive and are assembled in Maui at the Family Life Center's new Ohana Hope Village, where nearly 250 people will live. They're among the thousands displaced by the Maui wildfire.
Families coming out of trauma, they deserve privacy of bathrooms and kitchens and what we've been calling is a temporary shelter with a home-like feel.
Dr. Ashley Kelly traveled from Maui to Long Beach to see the homes arrive. Kelly has been working nearly nonstop since the disaster. This is more than a job.
In my youth, I spent some time on the streets. I was in a bad place in my life and was there by my own choice. But I saw what the streets were like, and I saw people who were there not by their own choice. And these families, they don't deserve that. And I want to make sure that they have something that really feels like home.
It's also a personal passion behind Jan's work on this housing project. He grew up in Ukraine.
I was a fire survivor myself. In a very young age, I was pulled out from the burning building with my mom, with unconscious mom, and the building literally collapsed like a few minutes after we were pulled out. And so I lived all my life traumatized by the fire that has spanned from all the generations. And so when we heard that there's a fire, I knew exactly what those families are going through.
When the shelters ship from Long Beach to the people of Maui, they'll deliver more than just a home to those in need. They'll also deliver cards with messages of hope given to the drivers from Operation Blessing in places like Oklahoma and North Carolina. Take this one from a 7-year-old who writes, "I hope God blesses you to find somewhere safe." Ephraim Graham, CBN News, Long Beach, California.
Thank you, Ephraim. And still ahead, a celestial show for the Americas. Finally tonight, a rare spectacle dazzled sky gazers across the Americas this weekend. The moon passed in front of the sun on Saturday, creating an annual solar eclipse. The eclipse darkened skies, leaving a blazing border around the sun and creating the so-called Ring of Fire, visible to millions of people. The next Ring of Fire eclipse, visible from the American skies, won't be until 2039. And that's going to do it for Faith Nation this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.